Hi, my name's Jake. I work with Multimedia. We specialize in live sound and audio reinforcement as well as commercial audio. Today I have an RCF. This is an ART 300. This is the passive version, no amplifier in it. And I have an issue with it. Let's plug it in, hear what it is or isn't doing. Okay, so I hear the tweeter is working, the woofer is not. So one thing we did notice about this is seems to kick on whenever we turn it on its side. So off the bat, with this being a 30-year-old speaker, and the last time it was used was at a car cruise, was about a 95-degree day. That's telling me that solder probably got loose somewhere from flipping it like this. Could be the crossover, but more than likely it's the connection to the speaker itself. The wire just finally gave way and isn't making connection. And when we flip it over, it's putting enough pressure on the wire where it's remaking the connection, and that woofer is working like it should. So let's get this cracked open and see what's going on. So finding schematics for this particular model is pretty difficult. Searched everywhere online, couldn't find them. Looking at the case though, we're going to leave all these screws in. This is just holding the crossover itself in. Though honestly I'm doubting that. This might actually just hold the board onto this back plate. It looks like the back plate is solid with the shell, so we're not going to even mess with these. So what we're going to do is pull out every one of these screws. A couple things to note: you're going to need a pretty long screwdriver. They are Phillips head screws. Confirm with a flashlight. Speaking of a flashlight, you're going to need that to get on in there to help see what you're doing. Now, given the age of this, those threads are probably going to be molded to the plastic itself just due to corrosion from both the screw and the shell fighting against each other. So we're just going to move slowly, carefully, and hopefully not do too much damage. And one other thing, there's one other screw here, so we're going to have to remove this handle. All right, and a few notes here. When I was pulling out those screws, some of the resin from those old threads was popping out with the screws. So that means when we insert everything back in, we're going to have to fill up that gap. Otherwise, those screws might not stay into the shell as they should, or might be rattling around whenever this thing's running. So what we're going to do is dip each one of those screws in thread lock before putting it in. Recommend thread lock just because it's going to hold everything in, but the bond will break away if you ever need to get the screws back out again. And I recommend using a magnetic screwdriver. I wasn't using one. Kind of prevented me from pulling out every one of those screws as they came loose. So the workaround to that is just put the shell on the ground, flip it over, that way everything falls right out on the floor right there. You want to make sure you're low to the ground, that way the screws aren't bouncing around, rolling all over the place, and you're going to lose something. So let's crack it open and see what we got. that shell will want to pop right out real easy. Most important thing is to make sure you're applying even pressure, both sides of it. Okay. And let me show you what we got here. Give you a better inside scoop view. So, got the crossover there. And actually that looks pretty good. I think these are our suspects. So we're going to hook everything back up to the amp, listen how everything sounded, and start wiggling some things around. Of course, I don't want to touch that capacitor. And tweeter is fine. It's a beautiful tweeter on there too. This whole unit is, well, if you've ever used one, you know. They're great speakers. All right, so taking a look at this, no, it isn't on this end. It's actually in the crossover itself. So we're going to take a look at that, see what's going on. What I'm going to do, you see these yellow bolts right here. Looks like they painted them yellow. Looks just like a paint pen. They use that as a thread lock whenever they put this together. Those are the only 4 screws I believe I need to remove. And when you're looking on it from this end, it's going to be the 4 inner screws. The rest is for the plate. I don't want to pop that whole thing out. I just want to give myself enough access to look on the other end of this crossover board, see what's going on, particularly at those connection points. So that's what we're going to do. Right, we have that disassembled, and just to go over the hardware real fast, bolts go into the back of the shell. They're met by a spacer that keeps the crossover board away from the chassis. Then you have these little washers right here, and then the locking bolts up front. That's that. So try to keep those grouped together. The spacers in particular will fall down the back, but they'll just land in the back of the shell. I did remove one side of the fiberglass insulation just to make it a little bit easier to work with. And if I'm correct, that's going to be our culprit right here. Doesn't look like any solder joints are broken, but there's still something going on with that wire. So we're going to plug it back in, fiddle around with it, see what's going on. All right, so we're going to have to split this into two parts. I'm going to have to pull in a voltmeter, see exactly what's going on. I think the issue is there's a broken wire. It's not in the crossover of the board itself, it's one of the connecting wires where there's a split in either the connector or, well, probably not the connector because I'm wiggling all those and not getting any consistent break. So it's probably a break in the wire itself. And whenever I'm moving that board at certain angles, the wire split occurs, then the woofer cuts out. And when I'm moving it into a relaxed position, it's reconnecting and we're getting what we should. So we're going to take a look at that in the next video, figure out exactly what wire is bad, swap that out. Well, if you do like what we're doing here, we're going to be doing a lot more in terms of sound, audio, and lighting. So please like, subscribe, hit that bell in order to see part 2, how we diagnose this issue. But we hope that you found this video informative and helpful. Once again, these are great speakers, but there's not really much on the web on how to crack them open, what's going on inside. As far as passive speakers go, these things are powerhouses, so it's real important to us to get this thing back up and running again. And if you want more information about our company, you could see our web link in the description below. Find out more about us. And once again, thank you for viewing, and we'll see you next time.